Oh, hi everybody. It's been a while since we've talked. This is questions for 1.3. I just made a question for number 8 and screwed it up, so now I'm making it again. We have a picture here of 6 small boxes that have been glued together, taped together, conglomerated together to make one prism. But question A says, what is the dimensions of a single box? So if we think about this single box here, what is the dimensions of this? So there's a little bit of inferring going on. I'm going to draw that box. So I'm going to make it kind of like this, and then like this, and then like this. There's one of the boxes. Okay, so we have it drawn there. And if we think about the dimensions, if the whole thing is 6 and there are 3 of them, that must mean that each dimension is 2. And if the whole thing is 6 here, that means this dimension must be 3. And the height doesn't change. So if we draw the dimensions of one of the boxes, it would be 2 by 3 by 1. Question B says, what is the surface area for the arrangement of 6 boxes? Well, if we think about what the arrangement of 6 boxes is, then if we just take this as one solid prism, you know what? I got a great idea. I'm going to trace this. Oh yeah, that's smart. And bring it down. It's 6 by 6 by 1. So if we think about what formula could we use for this, if I consider this side here A and B and then C over here and D over here, right, in terms of the actual rectangular faces there. They're all rectangles and we have 4 of them. So they are 4 rectangles, which each have the dimension of 6 by 1. So we have 4 multiplied by 6 by 1. Plus, we have a top here of E, and the bottom would be the same. And those are actually squares, so we're going to use side squared, and we have 2 that are 6 squared. Once I solve that out, 4 times 6 times 1 is 24, so those 4 sides here all make 24. Plus the top and bottom are 2 36s, which is 72. And altogether, we would have a total surface area of 96 centimeters squared. Okay, and C, we said we didn't have to do the ratio of total surface area, but if we did do it, the area of this one would be, if we looked at this one just because, this would have an area of 6, or sorry, of 3. This would have an area of 2, 3, 2, 3, 2. So it would be 3, 2, 3, 2, which is 12, plus the top, which is 6 and 6, which is 12 as well. So it would be 24. The ratio of the total surface area of the 6 separate boxes. So the answer in part B, so it would be 96 to 24 would be the ratio if you're curious. And in lowest terms, I think we could make that down to 4 to 1. Question 10 says, use centimeter cubes to build the object shown. Well, we didn't. We're just using the abstract. What is the object's surface area? So if they're all 1 by 1, so 1 by 1, this particular cube would have an area of 1 centimeter squared, that face. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 on that side, 10 on the other. So those are going to be 20. On this side, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 there. The bottom, which I can't see, would be 1, 2, 3, 4. This side would be 1, 2, 3, 4. And I believe that's all of them. Is that right? So altogether, if I add those up, 28 and 8 is 36. So the total surface area of that particular shape is 36 centimeters squared. Question 13 gives us 2 mugs and asks us to calculate the surface area of each mug. So what we're assuming too, and this is kind of one that we talked about before, we're assuming that this thickness here does not exist, right? So what we're really calculating, and we said that we're just going to make it, is the internal surface area that touches the liquid. So if these mugs were filled, we're going to consider the surface area to be that which is inside and touches the liquid. So if we think about what the formula for a full cylinder would be, it would be 2 circles, both a top and a bottom, and then that side of the cylinder, which is pi dh. But since there is no top up here, we're going to alter our formula just slightly. And what are we going to change here? What changes in our formula for the surface area? Anybody? The 2 is not necessary. because there aren't two circles that make up the surface area. There's just the bottom down there that makes the circle. So just one circle that is a part of the surface area. So if I do this twice, once for, we'll do the blue one first. We'll do blue first. The surface area of this will be 3.14. And if you're using 3, it ain't no thing. It's fine because we're not really concerned about the actual surface area, just how to compute it. The radius is half of the diameter. So if the diameter is 8, the radius is 4. Plus 3.14 multiplied by the diameter multiplied by the height, which is 9.4. So once we've substituted all the information into our formula, it's just a matter of bed mass, exponents first. So 3.14 multiplied by 16. And now we have just multiplication addition, so we'll do our multiplication first. So once we get those multiplications done, our last step is to add them together, and we get. So therefore, the sum of all of those would be 286.36, or approximately, if we round to the nearest tenth, approximately 286.4. Okay, that's the blue. So if we then, I'm going to put that up here, 286.4 centimeters squared for the blue. And then we're going to repeat the process. This time we're going to repeat it for the red. Now I'm going to leave all that stuff there, and I'm just going to erase this number, and I'm going to erase this number, and I'm going to erase this number, because all of it's going to stay the same thing except for those. So in the second one, our radius is half of 6.5, which is 3.25. So I'm going to put 3.25 there. Our diameter is 6.5, so that goes there. And our height is 13. So we're going to go 3.14 multiplied by 3.25 squared. 3.25 squared is equal to 10.5625, 10.5625, plus and when we do the multiplication, and once we get the multiplication, our last step is to add those together, and when we do so, that's our answer, which we're going to make approximately for the red, 298.5 exactly. So what is better mug for keeping your drinks warm? Justify your answer. The one with less surface area would be the one that's better for keeping your mug warm, because the less surface area means the less opportunity for heat transfer from the hotter liquid to the colder surface, which means that would be your answer. Okay. Question 15 is your, actually we did a warm-up just like this yesterday, didn't we? Okay. So how can you use symmetry to help justify your answer for the surface area of the object? So if we think about 2LW plus 2LW plus 2LW as the surface area for a full rectangular prism, from that we're going to take away two circles, because there's a circle missing here and there's a circle missing on the other side. But we're going to add all of this internal cylinder side that's now part of the surface area, which we're going to use pi dh. So if we consider this to be the same formula that we would use to find it, we would then say, okay, there's two triangles that are length times this. We're going to treat this as the front and back, the left and right, and the top and bottom. We're going to mark those to just orientate ourselves under a formula. So the front is 12 by 8, so we have two 12 by 8s. And we have two left and right is going to be 3 by 8. And we have two top and bottoms, which is 3 by 12s. So if there was no hole cut out, the surface area of that rectangular prism would be this formula, and we could simplify that. But we do have two circles that are missing from the surface area on the front and back. And they are two circles that have a radius of 2. So pi r squared for one circle multiplied by 2 would be both the missing ones, plus pi 3.14 multiplied by the diameter, which is 4, multiplied by the height. Now the height is interesting because the height is actually this distance here, which is actually this distance here, which is going to be 3. So the height of that cylinder inside that thing is actually the same measurement as this, and we got to kind of visualize it going that way. That would be the height of it. So when we do all of our work here, so when we work it out, here's what we got. This represents the surface area of the front and back. This represents the area of the left and right. This represents the area of the top and bottom. This represents the area of the two circles that have been cut out that we're going to remove. That's why we're taking it away. And this one over here represents the inner tube that has been created by drilling that hole through. So once we work all this out, let's just do it in our head. 192 plus 8 is 200. That's 210, that's 310, 312 minus 25.12 plus 37.68. I'm going to add these together first. 312 and 30 is 315. 322.68, 322.68, take away 25.12 will be, I'm not doing this in my head, 322.68, take away 25.12 is equal to 297.56. Oops, I made a mistake. Let's go back up here. Thank you. My mental math was off a bit. So 312 and 30, let's just add it. Let's just use a calculator. 312, take away 2512 plus 37.68, 324.56. There we go. That must be right. Centimeters squared is your surface area. And our last question is the most complicated one. So we're going to try and work our way through this one and see how it works. So on this building, all of the measurements are given to us except for, and I'm going to do it in yellow highlighter here. This measurement is not given to us. We do not know that. And I'll use a green one for the other one. And this one here. And I'll use a blue one for that one. So those three measurements, actually, and this one here too, isn't it? I'll use purple here. I think those might all be different, are they? Well, but those are not given to us, correct? So here's what we need. So if I think about the rectangle roof on that side, in order to calculate the area of the shingles on that roof, if I think about it as just a rectangle, okay? This distance here would be this distance here, and this distance here would be this distance here. You have to kind of visualize it that way. If I think about what that would look like on that side, it would be one massive rectangle. So let's start with what is this length right here? Do we know that one? How do we get that? 510 plus 3.8 would mean that it's 8.9. Everyone agree with that one? Now here's where it gets difficult. In order for us to get this one, we need to utilize Pythagoras. So I'm going to cut it across here, and I am going to take a blue marker, and I am going to trace a blue right triangle. Okay? So the blue right triangle, I'm going to bring down here, and I'm going to ask, what ones do we know? Do we know this measurement here? Right, so 3.9 is right here, so it's right there. Do we know this distance here? How did you get that? No, it's not 290. If we think about it, let me just erase this for a second. I'll draw it again. If we think about this, we know that this height is 2.9. And we know the whole height here is 7.2. So this measurement is going to be 7.2 take away 2.9. Agreed? So if I use my calculator, 7.2 take away 2.9 is 4.3. So therefore, this distance here is 4.3. You with me? Because 4.3 plus 2.9 is the 7.2. So now we have two sides of a right triangle. And if you remember back to grade 8 with Pythagoras, we can solve that missing side length by attaching squares to all the sides, or using a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So we take our calculator and go, what is 4.3 squared? It is 18.49. What is 3.9 squared? 15.21. So what is the area of that square attached to the, it's going to be the sum of those two, isn't it? So if I take my 15.21 and add to it my 18.49, I get 33.7. Now once I know that area, how do I get the side length? Square root of that number. So the square root of 33 is going to be, 5.8 roughly. You with me? So using Pythagoras, I was able to figure that out, which means if I'm going to roof that other side of the building that I can't see with roofing shingles, the area of that roof is going to be 5.8 by 8.9. So if I take 5.8 and multiply it by 8.9, I get an area of 51.62 square meters. Okay, you with me so far? Now there's only two more parts that we have to actually, I'm going to take this, I'm going to cut it right here. I'm going to make rectangle A and rectangle B. Let's start with A. Are there any measurements on A? I'm just going to draw the rectangle over here. Are there any measurements that we know for A? It's still 8.9 down here, isn't it? Because it's still going to be 5.1 plus 3.8. Then we're going to use the exact same idea that we used in the previous one to determine the length of that missing side length of the rectangle. So we're going to take this, we're going to cut it across here, and we're going to draw, I'll use red this time. I'm going to draw a red triangle here, right triangle, okay? So conversely from last time, if I know that this is 4.60 and the whole thing is 7.2, then 7.2 take away 4.6 should be that. So 7.2 take away 4.6 equals 2.6. So this distance here is 2.6, okay? So I'm going to draw my right triangle over here, 2.6. What's this distance? 2.4. So now we have 2 points on our right triangle. This time I'm going to use my formula. A squared plus B squared equals C squared, or 2.6 squared plus 2.4 squared equals C squared. To work this out with a calculator, 2.6 squared is 6.76 plus, is that 2.4 or 2.6 squared? I just did there. 2.6. 2.4 squared is 5.76. And the sum of those two, that's interesting. I didn't realize that those two were so close, just off by one. Interesting. 6.76 times, or plus, plus 5.76 equals 12.52. So these two add up to be 12.52 equals C squared. So in order to solve for C, what do I have to do to both sides? Square root. So the square root of 12.52 is roughly 3.5, which means this part of my triangle is 3.5, which means this is 3.5, which means that this is 3.5. So to get the area of A, since it's a rectangle, I'm going to multiply 3.5 by 8.9, and the area of that part of my roof is 31.15 square meters. Okay, that's number 2. And we repeat it one last time, this time for B, and we should be able to get all of the roof on this building. So this one we know. I'm going to draw B's rectangle over here. Donnie, how long is this one right here? 3.8. And how long is, so there's our right triangle, isn't it? All right, so of that right triangle, what's this measurement here? 1.8. Do we know this measurement? Can we figure it out? The whole thing is 4.6, and this part here is 2.25, right? So 4.6 take away 2.25 should be the measurement there. So 4.6 take away 2.25 is equal to 2.35. So this has to be 2.35, right? Because 2.35 plus 2.25 equals 4.6. Once we have that, I'm going to go 2.35 squared, which is 5.5225, plus 1.8 squared, which is 3.24. I knew that one. Add those together, 5.5225 plus 3.24. And what's the final thing I'm going to do with that? Nope, not going to divide it. Square root it, and I get 3. So this distance here, or this distance here, is roughly approximately 3, which means it's this part here. So it's 3 by 3.8. Multiply those together. 3 times 3.8 is 11.4. I just forgot. That's how quick my brain goes. Was it 11.4? Yes, it must be. Meters squared. So therefore, I now know all 3 parts of my roof, the far side and the other 2 sides. If I add those together, I go 51.2 or 62 plus 31.15 plus 11.4. If I add them all together, 51.62 plus 31.15 plus 11.4. The total surface area of the roof in this building is 94.17. Would you agree? Is that right? Am I talking to myself? Is that right? Close? Now, that's B. Question C says 1 bundle of shingles covers 2.88 meters squared. So if I have to do this much, this is a good point. So for those of you who are going to go into roofing, if that's your roof, you're going to buy more. What am I probably going to buy? How many square meters of shingles do you think I'm going to probably buy? Probably buy 100 square meters. So we're going to overestimate. Because we're going to have overlap. We're going to have shingles that get bent and destroyed and whatever. So we want to make sure we buy enough to cover the roof. And if there's damage later on, we want to have shingles left over to repair. So I'm going to take that 100 square meters and I'm going to divide it by 2.88 because each bundle, and that will tell me how many bundles to get. So 100 divided by 2.88 tells me I need approximately 34 bundles. I'm going to buy 35 bundles. Agreed? At 35 bundles at $26.95 a piece means that the cost of materials to cover that roof, if I buy 100 square meters instead of 90, whatever, it's going to cost me roughly $900, roughly.